Camilo Cruz is a Latin author, and he tells a story about La Vaca, the cow, and how this mentor takes an apprentice, goes to a home, poor family, they have one cow they survive on. That night, he kills their cow. The apprentice is like, what are you doing, man? How are they gonna survive and live? Years later, the city's gone. Now it's a rich city. The family's still there, and they recognize the family, but they're wealthy. And they're like, what happened? They're like, you won't believe it. But that night that you came, the same night, some thief came into the house, killed our cow. We had nothing to do, so we had to figure it out. We went to the back, we started planting fruits and vegetables. We realized we have the wealthiest soil in all of the land, and we became wealthy. If they wouldn't have killed that cow, we would have never realized our potential was right in our backyard. So many people on their teams or other companies, there is something that is not allowing them to go to the next level unless they're willing to give that up.
I want to start from the beginning of Valuetainment because, I mean, we're in a crazy office right now. And for this to be a YouTube channel turned major media production company, I mean, where did it start? Obviously, you're working at the agency at PCP, correct?
PHP, yeah.
PHP, excuse me. PHP, and then how did it all come about?
So, are we ready or?
We're ready to go, yeah.
Okay, cool, yeah. Valuetainment started with an idea where Patrick one day came and put a box on my desk and he says, Mario, I want to do some content to help train some of our agents and I want to use the platform YouTube, so here's the camera, figure it out. And I said, give me 2 weeks. Give me a few weeks. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to go online and find some. It's like, we're shooting tonight. I'm like, oh, crap. So then I'm like, all right. So I found whatever light pole we had at the time. I screwed the camera. How there's a hole in the bottom?
Yeah.
I screwed this little Rebel T3 on the top of it. I just hit record. Probably out of focus. No lighting. No audio check. No 1, 2, 3. Just, is it working? I think there's a little red thing on here. All right, let's try. Let's see what happens. And we had 2 minutes with Pat. But what we ended up doing was shooting 50 of those. Saying a farewell episode. We were already thinking, episodic, right? Saying farewell. And then Patrick said, the more I think about it, I don't want this to be a focus on me. I want to build a brand and a company that encompasses entrepreneurs around the world. Mm-hmm. And that's when we went to the whiteboard, the famous conversation of all these words, 100 words on a wall, erasing what didn't make sense, finally leaving with value, entertainment, and movement. We knew we wanted to provide value. We knew we wanted to be entertaining because that gets more eyeballs. And then we wanted to create a movement around the world somehow because he was so big. And the reason he was always number one, he's never been a small vision person. It's always been about the big vision, the big picture. And if not, what are we on earth for? And that led everything.
And that was the thing. So that was going to be my follow-up question. How does this go from a YouTube channel to a massive media production? This was all a part of the plan from day one.
Yeah.
What was once you guys went through that first little block, because I listened to one of your podcasts that you had done, and you talked about, there was roadblocks. You guys were producing content consistently, and it was not necessarily producing what you thought it was going to produce. Right. When was the moment for you guys that you go, okay, start and stop, then really consistently with the Motivation Mondays and the different bricks that you guys had to now where you guys have multiple different personalities, you guys got multiple different shows going on. When did all that get really, really focused for you guys?
I'd say the best way I can summarize it, if you've watched it, you sound like you've watched the content. Do you remember the Life of an Entrepreneur video? Mm-hmm. Maybe you can show on the screen right now, a little red car passing by, right?
Yep.
Most people only see the final product. And that is the reality. So most people look at Valuetainment today and they're like, they got lucky, right? I can never be like them. That script is so real till today, because now people look at the building like, oh, we knew Pat was going to make it. He's always been a big vision guy. PBD, yeah, man, this guy's a beast. Mm-hmm. Not back then. Back then they said he's just creating content to be famous. He just wants to be famous. He just wants to get leads for insurance. We've never cross-promoted the insurance agency on Valuetainment. We don't even let our own insurance agents attend the events. We never wanted to have that the reputation that we use the brand for other than providing that value, right? But when you ask, how did it go from a YouTube channel to a media company? There's been a lot of hard work. We've had a lot of great people behind the scenes that have put in the blood, sweat, and tears. When I show my tat, right, on Valuetainment, I tell people it's the blood, sweat, and tears of putting your heart into something. And this is a lifestyle for us. It's never been about YouTube. It's never been about the best channel for whatever. It's always been about a brand that people will rely on and trust and hopefully go to get an opinion. We're going to put a lot of value out there, and we're not going to lead you left or right. We're going to be right in the middle, helping you make a decision for yourself, because we believe that individuals are capable of making their own decisions.
Yeah.
They don't need to be forced, right? And with that, it went from that YouTube channel to then a lot of people behind the scenes to then having the tribe called Valuetainment and Valuetainers. And it's our audience. Without the audience, you don't have a brand. I think we do our best. And I know Patrick's been a huge advocate of, at consulting, but David Consulting, we say the client is king. Well, if you're a creator or an influencer and you're an online brand, your subscriber is king. Right? That doesn't mean you bow down to all their requests. It doesn't mean when they say put out this video, you do it, or make this shirt, you make the shirt. But it does mean that you hold them in a high regard. And we like to hold our fan base and our subscribership in a high regard. And when they said, yeah, the content's getting a little stale, we didn't go and say, well, if you don't like it, you can take off. Or we didn't pivot hardcore to something else. We found a way to bring something unique and different where we could still bring value, stay within our lane, and leverage Patrick's range as an individual in his life. You talked about your life earlier, how you grew up, Mesa, mom, dad, what you're doing now, right? School, testing, failing, trying things, and the focus with your team, right? Okay, there's range there. So tapping into that range, not just doing content.
And I could probably ask you questions for 3 hours because this is so interesting to me. You guys made a massive move when you guys went from business content to being like all business content to then you guys made the, PDB podcast. And now you guys are branching out into politics. And like, when I look at your guys' platform now, I think the most impact, at least from I see from an outside viewer's perspective, is like, you guys are uncovering a lot of like nonsense. Your research team is so the best example I have is the Israel and Palestine conflict. I watched that video. It was so well done, so unbelievably well done. And it was so detail oriented and it gave me so much information and it wasn't leaning one side or the other. When you guys made that decision that we're going to start, dipping our toes into a world of like, you're talking about the subscriber, the viewer is king in a lot of ways. I can imagine that was a pretty polarizing decision for your audience when you guys decided to do that. What was the decision like?
It happened before that.
Okay.
So it happened when we did about 50 videos of 2 minutes with Pat. For all my classic watchers out there, 2 minutes with Pat. But then from there, Valuetainment did about 200 episodes. And then we introduced the idea of what if it's not just Patrick? What if we bring in a content creator? And back then, we had people like Antonio Centeno, Real Men, Real Style, Kelly Nishimoto, Something Borrowed, Something New, doing different things. Tom Hopkins came on the channel. We had a couple of other people, Matt Sapala, now runs 7 Figure Squad online. If you don't know the channel, great channel. But then we brought in we tested that. Then from there, we were doing 7 videos a week and we burned out. Patrick's doing a vlog every week. So imagine everywhere you go, you've seen the vlogger lifestyle?
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, from the moment you go to the restroom, you wake up in the morning, you get down, you're eating a cereal bowl, whatever, the camera's always on you. And we're like, so that was one. Then we had Real Talk on Sundays. We had 2 videos a week, we had case studies. And then we had like a couple of business lessons, 3 tips, 5 tips. And we're like, yo, let's stop. This is like every day nonstop. Nobody's getting along. We're getting into arguments. It's like, who's going to work overtime? And, they got the team that wants to stay. The brand isn't big. So it's not like we're able to overpay. We're just kind of, Patrick is funding this with his own pocket. Till today, Valuetainment is funded through Patrick Bet-David. He takes 0 off the company. He funds the media production because he believes in this vision. But with that, we went to India. We're on the flight, and Patrick says, Mario, you know who we are? Do you know who Valuetainment is? And I'll never forget this because I was half asleep listening to Love by Kendrick Lamar. Like just knocked out in the plane. I wake up all messed up and, was knocked out. And Patrick says, Mario, I get it. We're citizens of the world. So we had shut down the channel for like a month, right? We did a video of Valuetainment shutting down. We just needed a step back. Sometimes you need a break. And a break doesn't mean you're done. Sometimes you need to take a bird's eye view and look at, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Where am I going? And are my actions aligned with where I want to go? And if they're not, you got a lot of confused content creators out there. You got a lot of confused people out there. And doesn't that apply to everything in life? If you're married or you have kids or if you're in a relationship or if you're at a company, where am I at? Where am I going? What do I want to do? And are my actions aligned? I want to be an executive at that company. Then why do you show up late every day and you never stay extra? That man, this should be my company. Really? When's the last time you treated the company's money like your money? I want to start my own thing. I think I'd be a great entrepreneur. Then why haven't you started it? And why do you have $0 in your bank account? What's the risk you're going to take? So all of that alignment. And then we came back after that trip and we said, we're going to do something different. And Patrick introduced a complete new genre of content called Mafia.
Yeah.
So before a podcast, you come back and we had Mafia, and you know what? We're going to talk business. So we stayed within our hub. All right. I'm giving you a little mindset and strategy people right now, but we had our business hub, but we said, what's our range? Patrick's a badass. What if we entertain a couple of mobsters and see the dark side of the business world? Let's find out what it's like to be a mafia boss in business, right? And Michael Franzese. And then every single living mobster out there, all the movies and all the people they base on. We had, Bronx Tale, what's that? Chaz Palminteri, then afterwards with Mafia States of America. So we did all the mafia individuals, and then we did Mafia States of America, and we dabbled in a 10-part series, the first time that we had ever put Sammy the Bull and Michael Franzese together, and we did that. Then we did Olympia. So we came back and said, you know what? Patrick wanted to be a bodybuilder, so why don't we dabble in the world of bodybuilding? Dorian Yates, right? We brought The Blade, Dexter Jackson. We had everybody else, Brandon Curry, and then we just keep going on and on and on with all the people in the Olympia world. Then from there, we started saying, all right, well, we want to get a little bit into conspiracy, but we don't want to go hardcore and extreme. But what if we find the Secret Service agent who was on the car with, President JFK when he got shot? And we did that. So we started going and saying, you know what else can we talk about and bring our own unique value that brings entertainment, that creates a movement of conversation. And then when we got to Florida, and even before Florida, we tried a podcast. We got to Florida and Patrick said, look, Valuetainment is a business audience, but we want to start dabbling into a couple of other topics and other things. I have some opinions to share. And we started the PBD podcast. But even on the PBD podcast, you don't see Patrick by himself. The spotlight is put on other individuals. And what can they bring to the table? So through Patrick, getting really good at asking questions and interviewing some of the most notorious or famous or, celebrity status people in the world, now he can host conversations. And now these conversations are for the world to be able to get information, get their news. And, fortunately, because of the topics and the individuals, it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And now you have the PBD podcast that goes viral all the time, but more than anything, I think it brings so much value. And at the core, if you keep hearing me say that, some people get annoyed with these kind of messages. Give me some secrets. The secret is stay true to your content, be authentic, and stay consistent, and bring real value in whatever you're doing. And then from there, it tends to catch fire.
And the thing that I just noticed from that conversation is depth. It's depth in what you're going to talk about. So most content creators, they want to talk about everything. They want to talk about business. They want to talk about this. And very few times do they actually have the ability to go deep on a subject. They haven't researched it themselves. They've read an article and now they want to talk about it like they're this expert. You guys consistently, and you were just talking off podcast, you did the entrepreneur series. You guys did 12 episodes of that show. And it's like all these, I see it across your guys' content. I can get lost in different subjects that you guys have slowly, methodically brought in. And it shows the passion for what you guys are talking about. And then again, it allows people to just kind of go deep in different subjects and get fully educated, which I think is so unbelievably important.
The trifecta, theory, witness, application. Real content creators that are going to change your life have the theory, they've witnessed it or done it before themselves, and they apply it, or they have applied it, or they're applying it, right? We're running companies. You just came in, you see the Vault drink, you see Patrick's new book, you see the people here at the office, you see the podcast down there, you see different companies and teams. We're not just talking about this is how you become successful. We've also messed up a lot. We've had our own issues. We've had a roller coaster of a journey. We've gone through an exit. Patrick has gone through so many evolutions and recreated himself so many times that he's earned the moral authority to give feedback and to share content. A lot of people out there, the reason you see them kind of topple over is they're doing a great job on putting on this image and they posture really good, but they don't have the moral authority. If you really strip away the cars or the looks, or you strip away a lot of the outer parts of their brand, there's zero substance
Mm.
inside, right? So it's like a spray painted apple. It's a rotten apple,
Mm.
but on the outside, damn, that thing looks good, right? Attractive. I want that person. I want that brand. Then you go to the inside, you're like, wow, empty.
Mm.
You're hoping you don't become that brand, and I'm hoping that a lot of people are putting a little bit more substance in their content today, because if not, what can you do that's different, and what is so unique about you that I can't get through Chat GPT?
Did you guys like look at like the Ramsey, how David Ramsey and them have done their media company, especially with, Valuetainment money now coming out, and you have, based on what you're talking about, you guys have had characters that you're introducing and creators that you're constantly introducing. Is that a part of the business model? Is that how you guys talk about it? That you need to segment, you need to have people that are coming for, Adam's podcast, for the Biz Doc podcast, like all things like that.
I wouldn't say Ramsey, but I'd say there's different people in the space that we come across everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's always sending us stuff, messages saying, hey, have you seen this? Did you watch this? I recommend this. Bring this person. We're always getting a lot of requests. At one point, I was managing the inbox, right? So I'd see all the requests and people that are there, and yeah, you glance and you look around, but no, we've never pinpointed or focused on somebody in specific. However, Valuetainment is a network, right? We are a media hub, and we got Vincent, who's a phenomenal, individual. But more than anything, he's, big heart, wants to, help people and wants to make them laugh. And he's a comedian at heart. He just can't turn it off. But when he needs to, he gets on the podcast. And there was an episode I remember he did. I forgot exactly who was on, but he got really passionate. He's talking about how much he loves this country and loves America, right? So we're lucky to have something like Vincent on board, and he's doing the comedy side.
Mm-hmm.
Adam runs Miami, right? Everybody in Miami knows Adam. We recently hosted the Minect Art Basel event that we did, and with Lisa and the team that's on board for Minect here. But he's another influencer out there in Miami, and he's doing something on the relationships and finance side and trying to find that commonality there, right? Then we have Tom the Biz Doc, who's doing more of the case studies and the business topics, and all of them bring something unique to the table. But if you really think of all those, they are trifectas.
Mm.
They have theories about how things work. They've witnessed it and they're applying it, right? And that's a common thread here. But the network is something that we're building, not based on other models, just based on the kind of media company that we wish existed.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys get worried after seeing like what happened with Tate and how polarizing it can? Well, I mean, Tate was a huge interview for you guys, and I watched every single minute of both of those interviews. Incredible. You guys came in super prepared. With the way that Pat and the team challenges ideas, and the way that you guys are so unbelievably like, this is our position, it opens up a lot of scrutiny. It opens up a lot of eyeballs of people that are just trying to watch you guys fail. How does that change the dynamic of the company? And do you guys think about that? Like, are we flying too close to the sun, or is that not really a thought?
I'm sure it's a thought. I'm sure it's for the production team at least.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was on the production side and that part, you're careful, right? But man, if you don't push the envelope, what are you doing? So it's again, let's go back to alignment. All right, we want to be a brand that pushes the envelope and brings value to the world. You think that's going to come at a simple price?
Mm.
So who do you really want to be? You want to be a company that's known, and a brand that's known, and a media company that's known for, pushing the envelope and bringing you some controversial stuff? Then you're going to push the envelope a little bit. So it's also like, yeah, we know it's going to be risky, but this is the price we have to pay. And unlike other companies who can talk a big game, we're willing to put our lives on the line, and we're going to push that envelope. However, we're not going to push to the extreme of getting lost in that sauce, because some people during COVID and a lot of things, hardcore conspiracy, everything being sprayed up in the sky is affecting us, and people are going crazy, and 5G, and right. So a lot of companies went a little too, too hardcore. And we all know the famous saying in Tropic Thunder, right? You don't go full. You don't go full. Some companies went full. We didn't. So that's an area where we're careful, but at the same time, we know that it is our responsibility to push a little bit harder, and we're okay with that. Brandon is our researcher, and he's a beast, man. But when he looks up content, we also know go polarized. So we like to have a blend of both sides and both arguments, and we're okay learning. We're okay being wrong.
Mm.
You said, failing, right? It's okay to fail, and we're okay with falling on our face. Okay, we were wrong about that opinion, and we recover from that. We're not. Patrick says our standard has never been perfection; it's been progress, and we focus on that all the time.
Speaking of failing, because this is super interesting and it hits close to home for me. I watched your video that you talked about going through your struggles with alcohol, and it hit home for me because I've actually, my family is riddled with alcoholics. Like I've been, a victim of it, or not a victim of it, but I've been affected by it myself, and it's so hard to get away from in a lot of cases. But listening to your story, what was the moment for you where you obviously, I watched it, I kind of have a general idea, but what was the moment for you that you go, I can't, because the story goes, Patrick picks you up, from this, and I heard a story that he said and I kind of matched them up, but that story goes, he picked you up and had that conversation. What was that like for you? And like, what was not necessarily that moment, but when you got dropped off, you're sitting there and you're like, damn, I got to figure this out.
Yeah, it's funny because in the moment you don't really realize what's happening, right? But the wrong thoughts consuming your mind allow the wrong associations to show up, then wrong decisions, and then next thing you know, you're in this debacle and you're in jail and you get arrested, right? And you got your boss there picking you up late night, and you're like, "How the fuck did I get into this situation? How did I end up here? This is not who I am." Right? And it's really easy to dig a hole and to look around and be like, I got nothing and nobody to look forward to, and depression kicks in, right? And then that loss of identity, man, that's been probably one of the biggest lessons of my life. Man can lose a lot of things. You can lose the girl, you can lose, something you really love to wear, you can lose the car, you can lose material, right? You can lose a lot of things. Losing identity fucks you up.
Mm.
And lost my identity. And I didn't know who I was, where I wanted to go, who I wanted to be. And honestly, at that point, I didn't care to hear from anybody else. Even somebody who had been around for such a long time. Nobody cares. World doesn't care. I'm by myself. And that's a very dangerous place to be. And from there, I do remember, having a conversation with Patrick, and he gave me two words that will forever be, just cornerstones for my life: perspective and gratitude. And I lost perspective, because I was in a way trying to drown out the dark past, which by the way wasn't like super traumatic. But who doesn't want to grow up with a stable family? Who doesn't want to grow up with a stable home, with stable finances, with a stable opportunity, and a family that can enable you, that if you want to go here or travel there, and there's a lot of areas where I didn't feel enabled to live a normal life. And instead of facing the music, right, and inviting that dark side to the dinner table, like Tim Grover mentions in one of his books, I was fighting it.
Mm.
Johnny Cash has a quote I love, and he says, "There's Johnny, there's Cash. They fight each other," right? But you don't have to fight yourself. You can kind of come to terms. Pearl Jam has a song called "Present Tense." I don't know if you've ever heard it. But he says you can spend your life alone, redigesting past regrets, or you can come to terms and realize you're the only one that can't forgive yourself. It makes much more sense to live in the present tense. And I started focusing on that and saying, what am I thankful for today? And what am I grateful for today? Am I willing to lose all of that? And Patrick said, look, if you're going to be a right hand, if you're in my circle, if you can control a vice, whatever it is, women, gambling, drinking, drugs, okay, even being lazy and entitled, if you can't control anything that consumes you, then you leave a window open to affect me and my family. So you have to make a choice to give into all of that or to really be a part. And that's probably one of the best things that anybody has ever told me, because even though there was a standard, it still showed me I care about you being in my family. I care about you being in my circle. I wish that you would change your ways so that you can be there with me. But you have to make that choice.
We had an employee recently that was struggling in that world, and it took everything from my perspective to not say, okay, I listened to one of Pat's things, and he said, I don't have alcoholics in my circle because I can't trust them. And that was like this whole, and for me, I've had to deal with that so often that my patience for it is like nothing. It's like the second I feel like somebody's in that way, I have to just completely like cast it to the side or get that person out of my life. Cause for me, at least that's what I felt until this moment. I listened to this and I go, if people deserve you to care and to sit with them for a minute. Now I think about where you guys are at now. My favorite thing that you guys do is the book. The book, plus you guys have to do like a report after the book. How is that monthly?
The book of the month, yeah.
Yeah, so that's monthly. You guys have set this new precedent where people are coming in actively knowing that they have to progress on themselves. Looking at somebody in my position, being that, we got 5 employees, it's nothing crazy, but I do worry about what is helping too much until you have to just say, like, you got to figure this out on your own.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's part of the last part of the example of you mentioning is, at the end of the day, it's that person's desire and willingness to want to change. It's the wanting to, and we call it willing. And Patrick just did a business plan workshop, right? And one of the key components, and it's in this book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely, one of them is will. The will and the desire to want to do it and knowing everything that comes with it. It's probably the hardest 24 hours of my life was saying no to alcohol for one day. Hardest 24 hours of my life. But Patrick was worth it. His family was worth it. And everything he had done for me in my life was worth it. And I was willing to. Unfortunately, it took some pain, right? And Tony Robbins talks about you either change because of force or choice. I did not choose to. I was forced to. But then true leadership is love. And Patrick showed me as a man that you can care for another man without making them feel like shit. And he gave me an opportunity. He gave me one of the greatest gifts of my life called grace. And he looked at me as a man, not as a number, not as an employee, not as a check or somebody who could bring value to a company. He looked at me like a brother, like a son, like a person. And that's what started to rebuild my identity, that I was still somebody worth wanting to do more and move up in my life. So the moment that you look at somebody and you're wondering, does this person still deserve my best? Should I give them the effort? One, are they willing to change? And are they showing action for that? Okay. And next part is, how do I still see this person? Because if you think I'm a waste, I've been now coming up on, over 4 years now, coming up on 5 years, no alcohol. I've had a lot of people message me throughout the years, Instagram. I feel so ashamed of myself for years after that. Even though I'm not drinking, I'm like, I'm such a loser, man. I can't believe people message me on like, if you only knew how like bad I am, how bad I was at that point. Like, I'm not an example. And it was still struggling with that for the first 2 years. Nobody knows. It's just here. Man, you changed my life. I'm like, bro, there's no way I changed your life. But I'm glad you like the content. But I just wanted to share. Now I embrace the fact that I did something that's not that easy to do. And I ask God every day, just keep me strong. And when things get really tough and leadership gets gives you anxiety, building a company, you're building your podcast, building your channel. Man, you got late nights, hard work. People say no. You're waiting for the check on Friday. I'm going to pay it, bro. Hey, I'm going to get you signed up. I'm good to go, locked in. Doesn't come through. It doesn't happen. That one person, oh man, I want to be on your team, bro. I'll see you bright and early on Monday. What happened? They didn't show up. Or that new person gets started in your company and they come on board first day. Listen, you never met somebody like me, man. I'm going to be your number one person. I'm going to change this business, bro. I have so many ideas. Day 2, where they at? They went to lunch, didn't come back. Or you got the guys that are here a few months, and then afterwards they leave and they start talking all kinds of shit all over social media. They go on review and they post this. And here's the reality, okay? The reality is we didn't do something. You're bitter. You didn't want to put in the work. You weren't willing to change. You didn't want to put in the effort. You thought you were too good. You didn't want to start back at the bottom. You did not have Shoshin mentality, no beginner's mindset. You're not willing to do what it takes. And that's why you won't get to the level that most of the big guys get. Whether it's as an intrapreneur or an entrepreneur, if you're not willing, okay, then you just won't be able to. So don't blame me. You have an issue. I don't have an issue. Company didn't mess up because we've been growing. We're doing good. We have a lot of success stories. Why is it you're the only one out of a few dozen people that hangs out at the bar talking shit? You found the right party for you, but it's a very small party. And then from there, it's, do you still believe in that person? You can believe in somebody, but I heard this. I went to a course. Patrick's big on development. He sent me to Kellogg for a week with Leo. And the first thing they said, you can't take a duck to Eagle School. And then Pitbull, we had him speaking at an event one time. He said, man, sometimes, you ever heard the analogy, you can take a horse, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. He said, but sometimes you turn around and you realize you didn't take a horse, you took a donkey. Right?
Yeah.
So guess what? Sometimes we got donkeys in our life, man. And you got to look around. Camilo Cruz is a Latin author, and he tells a story about La Vaca, the cow, and how this mentor takes an apprentice, goes to a home, poor family. They have one cow they survive on. That night, he kills their cow. The apprentice is like, what are you doing, man? How are they going to survive and live? They go back years later. I'm shortening the story. Years later, the city is gone. Now it's a rich city. The family's still there, and they recognize the family, but they're wealthy. And they're like, what happened? They're like, you won't believe it. But that night that you came, the same night, some thief came into the house, killed our cow. We had nothing to do, so we had to figure it out. We went to the back. We started planting fruits and vegetables. We realized we have the wealthiest soil in all of the land, and we became wealthy. If they wouldn't have killed that cow, we would have never realized our potential was right in our backyard. So guess what? So many people on their teams or other companies, sometimes themselves, there's a cow in their life. There's something that they're holding on to. There is something that is not allowing them to go to the next level. And unless they're willing to give that up, they won't. Partnerships, relationship, finding the right person. I don't know if you're married or have kids or not. But somebody, once told me that if you're looking for the right spouse or partner and your seat is already taken up by something else or somebody else, then they're not going to show up, man.
That's so good.
So some people have that seat is taken up. Some people, they're already done learning in life, and it's scary. I told my wife recently, I said, babe, who's my enemy? I've been around Patrick. I've been around Content. Been around Mafia. Shaking all these hands of people. I've been 18 years working with PVD. It's been a blast and a journey. I am so blessed, okay? But I don't, who's my enemy? Because I can't really hate a lot. When you've been at the bottom, you see a lot of good in people because that's how somebody saw you, right? And Patrick kind of cursed me because now I see all the good in people because he saw the good in me. So I can't help but see, oh man, I just want to give him another shot. I was given a shot, but I realized not everybody's willing to put in the same level of effort or work, and they don't have the same level of gratitude, and they can't get perspective, or they don't want to see it, right? But with that enemy, anybody who is a bad man to me is one of my enemies. If you're just a bad person misleading people, if you're giving the wrong info, if you're the kind of married man that takes guys to a strip club, you're an enemy to me. You're gonna hurt that person's wife and their children. If you're a man who can't control your stuff like I was, at one point, I was my own worst enemy. Why? Because I was a bad man. I was doing the wrong things when I had so much to look forward to. I would have never met my son Gabriel if I was still drinking today. Do you know how scary that thought is? Because when I see that smile on the face, I'm like, Lord, now I know why you helped me. And you showed me, you gave me the greatest gift in the world through my wife, Barbie. You said, man, this is the reward I have for you. But stop what you're doing, Mario, or you're not going to meet this kid. And I met this kid. And now I can't help it. Bro, I'm on fire. Now it's like this internal flame, and I got this knob. And I tell my team all the time, I'm a train right now. You get in front of me, you're going to get run over. Get on the train, watch it pass by, or chase it. But don't get in front of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I work with Patrick and David, I work with Valuetainment, and our goal is to help whoever wants to around the world make this world a better place through entrepreneurship, through business, through content, through media. And we're looking for an army. Like Optimus was assembling the Transformers, like calling all, what's it called? Autobots, right?
Yeah.
Man, we're calling all badasses that want to make America be the special country that it is, that want to protect capitalism, that want to protect leadership, that want to protect entrepreneurship, that are okay with debate. And we're going to enlighten, entertain, and empower current and future leaders around the world. That's always been our mission, but it's more clear than ever. And I hope that adds a little insight.
Oh my gosh.
You're asking about when you work with people and when you don't. They got that it factor,
Yeah.
but it's on the leader to find it, see it, ask. And here's the reality. If you're not building relationships and getting to know your people, you can miss it very easily.
It's so true. And the last thing that we'll talk about, because I know you gotta run here in a minute. There's a difference when you talked about that flame. It wasn't until I found my true enemy, because at first my enemy was survival. Make enough money to pay for groceries, make enough money to pay rent, make enough money so that I could take my girlfriend out on a date. That was my enemy. It was my enemy of, I don't want to deal with that. Recently, like early last year, that enemy was like, it was a slain enemy. It was like, it was no longer a problem anymore. But there was this 3-month gap of, I don't feel that. Where is that? And then I thought it was the chaos of feeling like you're on the bottom. Like it's like you're used to, okay, I'm every day I'm surviving.
Yeah.
You act different when you're surviving. You don't actually make the best decisions.
This stability feels weird.
Exactly. And what I realized, it wasn't until I read this book, I watched a lot of the content, that I sat there and I go, who is my enemy? And when I found that answer, because it took time and it took introspect, like it took like going inside. But I found that and I was like, he's seen it. It's like ever since then. And I'm very open with it. And I'll tell the team, I'll be like, this is who I'm like, this is my enemy now. Ever since then, you move differently. Like you're purpose driven. And I think so many people lack that in content creation all across the board. And I'm just so glad that you guys are actively, bringing this out of people and then obviously inspiring the world while doing it. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. Patrick is a very rare breed of leader where he has a high standard, but he's also willing to be humble. We'll be in a management meeting and Patrick will lay on the floor and stretch his back. Be like, all right, guys, give me a second. Just let me stretch it. And everybody looks at Patrick. It's like, man, this hardcore, heavy hitter, boss in business. Pat is a great dad. Patrick will go from dad mode, landing at 3 a.m. just recently. We came from doing a few events. He's promoting the book. We get back at 3:30 to one of the airports here. And the next day around 8, 9 o'clock, he was at the field watching a game, swimming, and it's that balance of when this is your lifestyle, you don't have a choice to bitch about it. Make a decision. And if you don't want the lifestyle, then don't ask for all the beautiful things that come with it. And don't feel entitled. And if you're at a company as an entrepreneur or you're an employee and you're working with a badass CEO that treats you good, that loves on you, that takes care of you, pays for your lunch, gives you the bonus, whether it's big or small, regards your family, gives your kid a little gift, man, take care of that person. Take care of your CEO, take care of your boss, take care of your leader. Show your leader some love because they don't have to do that. And there are a lot of shitty leaders in the world today. There are a lot of bad leaders in the world today. And people that don't give a crap about their employees and their teams. If you're part of the lucky camp that has a good company with a good culture, that has a big vision and thinking big, you're fortunate. Now, instead of just being there and earning your 30, 40, or 20 bucks an hour, go find a way to, instead of just maintaining your job, go above and beyond and join that elite group of people that when they're up at night talking to their wife or talking to their key people, they say, hey, who do you guys think we should be locking onto and focused on to develop next? They say your name. They won't do that if you show up to do a job. They'll do that if you go above and beyond and you bring value when you're not supposed to. You give ideas for other departments that nobody's asking you for. You find ways to save the company money and treat it like it's yours. So I hope to inspire a few people that if you're at a company, become an entrepreneur. You don't have to take off and risk everything and have money to start a company. You can find a good company, a good boss, and you can say, what would it take to be in your inner circle? Help take your company to the next level. Let me help your dreams come true so that mine can come true. How can we do that? That's impossible. Find another company. Oh man, seriously, that's who you want to be? Yes, I'd like to run this thing. You tell me what I have to do. I love your vision. I love working with you. Show me some respect. Don't make me do shit I don't want to do. Nothing shady, right? No FTX crypto crap, right? As long as we're staying in business, bro, I want to stay legal. Tell me what I got to do and let's move up. And you go from, following a leader to sidelining and then leading that leader. And when you're leading the leader, now it's a very different relationship.
being leaders of leaders.
That's right.
That's what I heard Pat say, and I was like, that's so good. Well, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much this means to me. This has been years in the making for me personally, just being able to talk to you and gain some wisdom. And obviously you guys have an amazing setup here, and
Thank you.
I'm so excited to watch you guys continue to absolutely dominate. So thank you again, Mario.
I appreciate it. Absolutely.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Very
All right.